35.
Has the meltdown over Iraq with the likes of France, Germany, and Russia now signaled the end of U.S. alliances and allegiances that were born out of World War II and the Cold War? Our next guest thinks so. Easy for me to say. In a Time magazine essay, he says that those supposed allies are now neutral at best, and with the exception of a few good friends, America must now go it alone. With us now from the Washington newsroom, syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor, Charles Krauthammer. Charles, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I saw the beginning of some of this last night on Special Report with Britt Hume and listened with interest. We have a list of former allies or people who said to be allies or something like that that I think we can put up on the screen. Can we still count on any of these people anymore?
Well, most of the countries who were with us in the Cold War, who needed us for protection against the Russians, most notably France and Germany, the big guys, are not allies. People are saying, well, they hate us, or the Bush administration didn't manage the relations well. That's not so. It's simply the old axiom of Lord Palmerston, which is that nations do not have permanent allies. They only have permanent interests. Their interest was to be protected by us against communism. Communism is over. It took about a decade for the truth to show itself, and last year it showed itself. Those alliances are dead.
Germans and Russian alliances unfixable.
I think the French, the Germans, absolutely unfixable, particularly the French. The French have declared openly that they do not like the world the way it is, meaning the United States as the dominant power. They want to see what they call a multipolar world. They were once a great power, and they are not anymore, and they don't like it, and they're rather pleased, secretly, quietly pleased, that we are preoccupied and diminished and distracted by the war on terrorism, war in Iraq and elsewhere. That's a way for us to be brought low and for them correspondingly to be relatively stronger, which is why when the French foreign minister was asked during the Iraq war whether he wanted the United States to win, he refused to answer the question.
Isn't it possible, though, Charles, as some emailers have sent, that the United States needed a market in Iraq, and the French already had a market in Iraq, and we had different goals and hopes and dreams and ambitions for Iraq, and that's why we were on different sides of the war?
Well, we did have different interests. The French had very strong economic interest in Saddam, whom they had supported and armed over all these years. We did not have an economic interest in Iraq. The reason that we're there is rather different. But the French interest is to regain its status as a great power. And as long as we are the great dominant power in the world, that's not going to happen. That's why the Germans, the French, the Russians, the Chinese are quite happy to play the neutrals while we have to go to war.
But President Bush has said neutrality doesn't work here. President Bush has said you're with us or you're against us. So if they're not with us under the president's doctrine, are they against us?
Well, they're not against us in the sense that they are supporting the terrorists. They're certainly helping us on things like checking airplane passengers on Air France. But in the real war, the war on the ground, the war where our soldiers are getting shot, they are nowhere to be seen. If you look in Iraq, not one of them, these great powers, the French, the Germans, the Russians, the Chinese, not one has lifted a finger in support of our reconstruction. The British, Australians, and a few Europeans are with us, and that's it. Otherwise, America is alone.
Charles Krauthammer, syndicated columnist, Fox News contributor, the column now in Time magazine. Charles, good to see you.
Pleasure.
Coming up from Studio B, French officials, speaking of the French, say they're still looking for the passenger who never showed up to that Air France flight canceled on Christmas Eve. What's that passenger story? Plus, worries of this dirty bomb idea, sending government scientists into the crowds during New Year's celebrations. This wasn't necessarily the reason for Code Orange or High Alert, but certainly it's one of the things that happened after Code Orange happened. Because doesn't it make perfect sense that if they could, they would? But they couldn't. Maybe we know why.